This week on Unglossy.
140 characters and a button. Like, I could build this in a weekend. Like, this ain't going to be nothing. Like, it's fun now, but like, I'm not going to move my family across the country for this thing. And Evan just looked me right in the eyes and he said, look, if we do this right, it'll change the way the world communicates. I'll never forget that. Said in a shady bar in the Mission. And at the time I thought, like, I like you, but you're crazy, man, but I want to rock with you. So I stuck with him. We started working on Twitter and some other ideas.
From the top.
Yeah.
I'm Tom Frank.
I'm Mickey Fax.
And I'm Jeffrey Sledge.
Welcome to Unglossy, decoding brand and culture. I'm Tom Frank, partner and chief creative officer at Merit Creative. This is Mickey Fax, hip-hop artist and founder and CEO of Pendulum Inc. And that is Jeffrey Sledge, a seasoned music industry veteran who has worked with some of the biggest artists in the business. We're here to explore the moments of vulnerability, pivotal decisions, and creative sparks that fuel the relationship between brand and culture. Get ready for a thought-provoking journey into the heart and soul of branding, the unscripted, unfiltered, and truly unglossy truth. All right, guys, we got a good one. A really, really good one. And it went places that I didn't even anticipate.
This is true.
This is going to be good.
This is my friend.
This is your friend. Yeah. So you finally contributed.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, though. He might be your friend, but who did the outreach?
You did the outreach because, that's your job. But, but that's my guy. Like, I met him before you. So.
You did meet him before.
I didn't know anything about him. So it was really interesting to me because I was learning. I didn't even know. I was like, I called me because like, who's this cat? I don't even know who he is.
Yeah, he actually did call me.
I tried to look him up online. I couldn't find much. I was like, I don't know.
Who's this ghost in the wind?
This is an underground guy.
Yeah.
Stirman.
Which
just the name itself. Stirman.
That's just it. It's like Prince.
Stirman. Yeah.
Stirman.
One of the first Twitter employees.
One of the first like the guys who the developer of Twitter.
Yes.
I actually had no idea. Yeah. I knew him because of the Bars app.
Yep.
And I knew him, I knew he worked at Meta.
Yep.
I had no idea the backstory about Twitter, about
Medium,
yep. About all his other interesting apps.
Yep.
And the fact that the guy used to own his own
auto
shop.
Mechanic shop.
Yep.
He doesn't know anything about cars.
He doesn't know anything about cars.
Crazy.
And he's also a producer,
Yep.
Who didn't reach out to me to get on his project.
Yeah. He did reach out to me. I didn't bring that up, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But he has a new music out there right now.
Yes, he does.
People got to go check it out. Look for Stirman.
Yep.
It's good stuff. It's different. It's not what I expected.
It's not what I expected either, but it sounds really good. And he's very passionate about what he does. And just a talented, intelligent individual, man. Like, he's such a peaceful soul as well.
Yeah,
very in tune with nature and just like life and the spiritual side of things. So, like, I think people are going to really enjoy this conversation.
I do too.
Well, I think they are too.
Yeah.
And with that, let's get into our conversation with
Stirman.
Unglossy is brought to you by Merit Creative. Looking to skyrocket your business's visibility and drive growth? At Merit Creative, we solve your brand and marketing woes. With big ideas, decades of experience, and innovative solutions, we'll draw in your target audience and keep them hooked. Remember, creativity is key to success. Partner with Merit Creative and unlock your brand's potential. Learn more at meritcreative.com. And now, back to the show. I'd like to kick things off by reading something written by our guest that I found very compelling and I very much enjoyed.
Okay.
Hopefully you'll like this.
Let's see.
So a dude walks into a bar, sits down and says to the bartender, "My name is Stirman. I build things on the internet. I'm currently working on new products at Meta. Previously, I helped start Medium and was early at Twitter. I design, code, and lead product teams. I received a computer science degree from the University of Texas. I helped to create him, her, and him. I'm thinking that's the kids. I'm married to her. I believe that's his wife. I like to make art. I was voted most creative by a high school senior class of over 800 students. I once scored 27 points in a 7th grade YMCA basketball game. My favorite color is a subtle shade of invisible. My spirit animal is the early 90s Dennis Rodman. I'm standing right behind you. Well, actually, at least for today, right here on my screen. People say hello to Stirman.
Yo.
Thank you for joining us.
Yo, man, good to be here. That's the whole long-winded intro, man.
But hey, you wrote it, and I stumbled upon it, and I was like, "This is perfect. This is perfect for you."
Well, I wrote that a long time ago. Now I feel like I got to go update it. At least behind the him, her, and her, there's some photos of my family which haven't been updated in a very long time.
Okay,
it's all true, man. That's my background.
So let me ask you this: does anyone call you by your first name at all?
Nobody. Actually, my parents are the only one. My parents and my sister, because they're all Stirmans also. But man, I just grew up with lots of different Jasons. Grew up in Texas, and I must have had in my classes growing up, my grades were probably 500,000-600,000 people, and so that was a popular name back then. I think there was literally 7 or 8 other Jasons, and so been rocking Stirman since a wee little boy, and still going strong with it.
I like it. Now, Mickey, before we get into how we know this gentleman, I did find this. I do a lot of research, man, and I want to show this. I found this picture of you. I didn't even think this. I thought maybe I had the wrong guy. Like, who is this guy?
Move it over a little bit. Let me see.
Can you see that?
Wow, look at that guy.
Look at that.
That doesn't even look like the same guy that we're talking to right now.
Handsome, hairless individual.
Yeah,
he had a 000 on the head.
See, I mean, I think it fits in a little bit more with us, but
000 blade on his joint.
Yeah, man. Used to rock it clean cut, but I think the older I got, the less I cared about what people thought. I always wanted to rock long hair, so this is been going since COVID. Basically, this is 3 or 4 years.
Okay,
in, so I'm letting it rock, man.
What year?
COVID was a perfect time to start that because barbershops is closed. Everybody was wolfing anyway, so you just kept it going. Yeah.
It was the perfect time to just change in general, right? It was the perfect time to do something different, to just be you and do something totally crazy and wild.
100%.
I kind of miss it a little bit. Not all the disease and all of that, but the time. I kind of miss.
I was thinking about that shit the other day too. I'm in Atlanta now. Stirman. I don't know if you know that. You wouldn't know that, but I'm from New York, so I was dead in New York City, in Manhattan when COVID started, and I missed that shit.
You missed COVID?
I missed the time of
things that were around COVID, not COVID.
The time.
Yeah. The time, being able to walk down the middle of Broadway because there was no cars on the street. Like walk down Broadway like it's a sidewalk. I miss that type of shit and the peacefulness of it.
Man, we get it, man. I don't miss the sickness. Obviously, I was very lucky and privileged to be in a situation where me and my family could be happy and healthy. But for me, I'm kind of a natural introvert. So it was like a time when everything shut down. The family kind of got together. We relied on each other, relied on our neighbors. And that's when I really started getting serious about music production. We can talk about here in a little bit, but also everyone's picking up new hobbies, and you're on Zoom calls with people at work. You're seeing their kids and spouses in the background, kind of realizing everyone's just a human trying to do their best, So I don't, like I said, don't miss the sickness, but I look back at that time pretty fine. I think it's pretty special. A couple of years indoors with the fam was good for me.
Yeah.
I felt like I met more people. I met more people that I would have never met ever before, including you. Right. So, Mickey, we got to tell the world how we know this guy.
Well, how I know him. You met him.
I met him through you, Mickey. I'll admit that.
Mick is the plug. Mick is the plug. And he never lets you forget that.
No, he never lets me forget
it. We can't let anybody forget it. I mean, I was, one day I was bored. I was bored in the house. And I brought some rappers up, and the rappers came on and they started rhyming. And
he brought me up, and I just spit straight fire. And he was like, "I gotta rock with this guy." Is that what happened?
The end. Let's cut the show.
That's not what happened. Go ahead.
I think I brought a couple celebrities up, and our mutual friend DJ Deluxe. He was like, "Hey, man, we could do this through the Bars app, and we can help fund it and get it going." And no exaggeration, I brushed DJ off the first time. I was like, "Hey, man, I got this, man.
Chill.
I'm doing this myself. I don't really need any help." Right? That was the first message I sent to DJ. And then DJ is a very persistent person. The second time he came back around and said, "Hey, listen, bro. Seriously, we'll take care of some of the payment and stuff like that. Don't worry about anything. You have the traction. You can get people here to our app, and let's make it work." And I said, "I don't believe you, but okay, let's do it." And DJ walked me through this process, and eventually, in the second season is when I kind of met Stirman. The first season was a complete success. We had Lupe pull up. And Vega the Seven Ronin, who won our competition, he's now like a household name in the underground scene. He's selling vinyls out in 5 minutes. And before we put him on the Bars app, he had, no exaggeration, he had like 100 followers. He's up at like 8,000 followers now, and that's strictly off of what we did with the Bars app and that whole competition. So when we pulled it back for the second year, obviously I brought Tom in for the first year, and then we came back around for the second year. And that's when I got a chance to kind of get a chance to know who Stirman was, what he accomplished in his life from the tech perspective, and how he was involved with the Bars app. Does that sound right, Stirman?
That sounds exactly right, man. And like I said, I know it was season 2 of the Mickey Facts Bars Out Challenge, and we really connected. But I was following the story from day one. Big shout out to Deluxe DJ for hooking us up and for being persistent and riding you till you'd rock with us. And man, that was a huge moment for me. That was a huge moment for the Bars app. Hopefully it was good for you. And at the end of the day, we put guys like Vega and Lord Owen and these other guys, on the map, gave them a platform, and that's pretty rad. And those flowers are still blooming from what we did a few years ago, which is cool.
Absolutely.
And Mickey, I don't think you're giving it its full love here. To me, it was like the American Idol of rap music, and it all happened on Instagram. We released it out on YouTube afterwards, but I mean, it was unbelievable. Like, we would get 10 to maybe 16 guys pull up every night. They would drop their bars. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, it was awesome just to listen to these guys who would just walk up to a mic and start spitting. And I loved it. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you for getting involved with us. And I think it was a very great mutual relationship. I thoroughly enjoyed being a part of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. So let's rewind a little bit. We're going to get back to the Bars app because we do have to ask some questions about it. But let's rewind a little bit. You're originally from Texas.
Yes, sir.
You went to the University of Texas. Hook 'em Horns. And then, did I read right? You owned an auto repair store?
I did. Oh. So I'll back you up a little bit. So graduated from UT in 2000 with a computer science degree. I was always a big tech nerd, but I was also a big hooper, always playing music. But I was like a closet tech nerd when I wasn't cool to be a tech nerd. And so I went to school, got a computer science degree, graduated and started working as an engineer in Houston, but really realized being a software engineer was just not going to cut it for me. It's just, writing code was one way for me to express my ideas, but so was drawing portraits and making art and making music and building with Legos. And so it was just another tool to share my ideas with the world. So I kind of got burnt out as an engineer pretty quick. So dropped that and just was feeling really entrepreneurial. My dad was a lawyer, but he started his own law firm. And I think he just instilled with me a lot of that kind of entrepreneurial energy. And, working for someone has always been hard for me because I really value autonomy. I like to move and shake at my own pace and do my own things. And so after dropping the engineering job, I was kind of looking for something to do. And long story short, but this auto repair shop in my neighborhood was kind of shutting down. The owner had already moved out of state, but then the deal that he was going to sell it, but the deal fell through. So he was kind of left in a weird situation. And so I heard about it. And so I kind of jumped in. I can, to this day, could barely open the hood of my own car. I kid you not.
See, I thought you were going to say the opposite.
No, I kid you not. I couldn't change oil, nothing. I'm looking at an engine. I don't know what any of that stuff is. I don't know how it works, but I saw an opportunity to own a small business. I thought I could market this thing and get some people in here. And long story short, it was the worst year of my life. I'm not kidding.
Oh, wow.
Here I'm running this shop.
I thought it was going to be this shit was fly.
No, the exact opposite. I had 2 mechanics who were alcoholics and stealing from me the entire year, which I found out later. The previous owner had really done some people wrong. And so, people already going into auto shops kind of with their guard up, feeling like they're going to get screwed or getting taken over. And so here I am. I'm there at 5 a.m. cleaning the toilets, getting ready to open the shop. I'm running the desk because I couldn't afford to hire anyone. So it was me and these 2 alcoholics running this place. And people would come in because there's something medulla oblongata broke and they're screaming at me. And coincidentally, I look like the previous owner, which didn't help me. And so I had one dude literally jump over the counter to fight me, because something broke on his car. And it's all a different language. I didn't even know what people were talking about. So you talk about a crash course into entrepreneurial efforts, business ownership, conflict management, that stuff I learned in that year. Like I said, it was miserable. And that's probably the closest I've ever been to depression in my life. But what I learned that year could have never been taught to me in a classroom, in a textbook, from friends. Like, you just got to go through the fire to learn sometimes. And so very appreciative for shout out Integrity Automotive in Magnolia, Texas. But man, as soon as I could get out of that deal, I got out.
Wow.
That's definitely not the way I thought that story was.
I didn't think it was going that way either. So wait a minute. So you jump out of that. Did you immediately jump over to Twitter? Was the next landing stop or no?
No. So while I was running the shop, I was still like dorking around with code and design. And I had grown a little design studio before that, because I was like, teaching myself color theory and layout and typography. And then, the early 2000s, like I had this somewhat embarrassingly late realization for me, is that like I could design, I could code, I could make my own like web apps. And the web apps were a new thing come like 2003, 2004, totally. Web apps were dynamic and this whole boom of the industry. And so I started dorking around with little ideas, just for me, little fun ideas for me and my wife, my family. And a couple of the ideas really took hold. And before I know it, like I was on the Today Show, I was in Time Magazine twice, I was in Wall Street Journal. These little apps, this little computer nerd from Texas was building. I was really fascinated with SMS technology in the early 2000s. The texting, it was new. Y'all remember like T9 where you had to like press the buttons multiple times? We're all probably about similar age. And so, and back then it cost per text, or it cost to text outside your network. But I just sensed this was going to be a big thing. So I started working on clever ways to send text messages. And I came across a little like secret that no one knew about how telephone companies worked. And I was enabling people to go to a website, type in like a date and time, a message, and a cell phone number, and it would send that message to that number at that date and time, which I just thought it would be cool for like me to remember to tell people happy birthday or happy anniversary or whatever. But I didn't realize like I was one of the first people to kind of build a interface to SMS technology that wasn't on the phones. I mean, these things didn't even exist yet.
Wow.
And so it really blew up faster and quicker than I could have imagined. And here I found myself just with a lot of national attention. All the tech nerds in Silicon Valley were calling me because they were wanting to utilize my technology. And that's when I had a moment like, oh shit, like people like what I can do. Like I can maybe do something special with this. So I created a few little companies around that, really selling like API access to send text messages easily. But while I was like hitting up restaurants and dentist office, and I still had a very local mindset growing up, in the Houston area around Houston. Some nerds out in Silicon Valley were working on this idea that became Twitter, but it wasn't Twitter to start it. They were at a previous company. It was a podcasting company called Odeo. And they kind of put podcasting on the map, but then they caught wind that Apple was probably going to build podcasts into the next versions of iTunes. They were right, kind of killed their business. They couldn't compete with Apple at the time. So they were spinning around on some different ideas, and Twitter was the idea that kind of caught hold. And so right when I met these guys, I had this Twitter idea, and they were like, we know the stuff you're working on. I had heard of them because the founder of Twitter, named Evan Williams, he had sold Blogger to Google. It was Google's first acquisition. So all that Blogspot stuff back in the day, that was him. So I kind of, as like a Silicon Valley fanboy, like I kind of heard of him, and they were like, look, we got this idea, Twitter. And I was like, I flew out there, meet with them. Said, yeah, I can help you out with this SMS tech, because Twitter was all text message in, text message out to start.
Yep.
There was no.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was all text message. So, and they were paying out the wazoo for their text message bill. So I was like, I know how I can I can help y'all here. So we started rocking together, and pretty early on, me and one of the founders, he kind of realized like, I like to wear a lot of different hats. I could design, I could code, I could make products for people. I like to talk to people. So we started working on different ideas, and we had this company called Obvious Corporation, and Twitter was going to be one of the Obvious Corporation products. So while after I helped them with the SMS stack, Twitter kind of started taking off, and we were working on some other ideas, but within about a year, it was real clear that like Twitter was the idea. When it started, it was kind of the punchline in Silicon Valley. People were like, who cares what you have for breakfast? Like, it was like, why would anyone want to do this?
Little did they know. Yeah.
Well, people started making fun of Twitter on Twitter. That's when we really knew we were onto something. But to my discredit, when it came time to really make a move out there, Evan, my guy, said, "Hey, bring your family out here. It's going to be a whole thing." And I was like, 140 characters and a button. Like, I could build this in a weekend. Like, this ain't going to be nothing. Like, it's fun now, but like, I'm not going to move my family across the country for this thing. And Evan just looked me right in the eyes, and he said, look, if we do this right, it'll change the way the world communicates. I'll never forget that. Said in a shady bar in the Mission. And at the time I thought like, I like you, but you're crazy, man, but I want to rock with you. So I stuck with him. We started working on Twitter and some other ideas.
Did you move out to the Valley?
Not right away. I said, I'll rock with you, but I want to do it from
remotely.
Texas. A little side note is right before that, I had started a company and raised some money from some venture capitalists out in Silicon Valley. And I had actually sold my house in Texas. I had moved to California, and my family was packing up the house to meet me out there. And while that was happening, the whole deal fell through and I had to move back to Texas. So this was right on the heels of a very disruptive, almost moved to California, moved back to Texas situation. So when Evan approached me, I was like, I can't do this to my family again. My wife was pregnant at the time, with our second kid. And so didn't move then, but stuck with Ev, started rocking with Twitter, really started learning to manage people, lead product teams. And it was really clear that his vision for changing how the world will communicate was feasible, which really surprised me. But it was also a unique moment in time where the world had never seen anything like that. When we started it, we were just hoping that the tech blogs would stop making fun of us. Never did we think world leaders would use this to organize rebellions and terrorist organizations. I mean, it really did change the way the world communicated. And, I'm really happy to be a part of it. So I did move out about a year later. And then that was 2008 or so, and been out ever since.
Wow. That's crazy that Evan Williams, he saw it right from I guess you have to. He was the visionary part of this.
It's a well-documented story now, but one of his engineers at Odeo was Jack Dorsey, who now is a pretty household name. And it was actually Jack's original concept, but Ev had the leadership chops and the money and the bravado to take it and really make it something. And so, if you read that Twitter story, between Bizstone, Jack Dorsey, Evan Williams, the kind of a rotating cast of characters and leadership and a lot of discord at the board level nonstop. But to me, Ev always represented kind of the heart and spirit of what Medium could and should be. And credit to him, man, he did it.
Wow. Looking back at that, now that we know where Twitter is today, obviously they've changed the world, but now we're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Twitter today?
Man, my overarching thought, I just have a lot of gratitude for what that product, it really put me on the map in Silicon Valley as someone that could work and flourish in this industry. It really did change the way the world communicates. I have a lot of lifelong friends that I met on Twitter that worked at Twitter. And so my heart's really full, and I feel I feel complete from what Twitter provided for me. That said, Twitter hasn't changed a ton in the last 15 years or so. Still short form text, put it out there, you got followers. And I always felt like as fast as it grew and as popular as it is, that it still had untapped potential, and it still had a lot of problems, and it didn't really evolve as quick as some of these other, Snapchats and TikToks and things that came up. Look, Twitter had Vine. Vine was TikTok before TikTok, but they squandered it, so there was a lot of stories like that I feel like Twitter could have continued to grow and really cemented itself in the fabric of our society even more. So now Elon at the helm, I think I'm just more than anything sad about it. Whether you like Elon or not, I have a Tesla. I've met Elon a couple of times. Maybe there's a genius in there somewhere that, can create these things. He's also happy to give you the finger and tell you to fuck off and do it his way. And when he acquired Twitter, he did that with a lot of employees. A lot of them were my friends, which still haven't, got what's owed of them, to them, after this whole deal. And, it seems like Twitter is kind of becoming like the Elon fan club social media site. It's almost like, Trump has Truth Social, Elon's got Twitter or X now. And that said, though, it's still going strong. I think it's a testament to how ingrained Twitter is into the communication infrastructure of our planet, because even with, someone who's, a hothead, kind of crazy running the thing and, giving the finger to advertisers and employees and, kind of doing everything to mess it up, it's still going. And I'll say, zooming out a little bit, Twitter has always tripped over itself with internal discord and leadership changes and bad calls and things like that. But it just keeps on going, which I think is a testament to the original seed of that idea.
The original seed, yeah.
Really special and continues to flourish.
So I was on Twitter 2007. Somebody a guest that we're going to have on here at some point, Saint, he told me, he was like, you need to sign up for this new thing called Twitter. And I was like, okay. So I signed up for it. And, I would go on there and just speak my mind, like most people did, because then nobody knew it was going to turn into what it turned into.
Yeah. I'm
not sure if you worked at Twitter on September 25th, 2009. Which to me is probably, aside from, a president being elected or the insurrection, is probably one of the biggest days on Twitter. The day that Michael Jackson passed away.
Mm.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson trended for 10 days straight. Were you at Twitter at that time?
I was. Yeah. I was full-time there from about 2007 to 2011. I left with that. Yeah.
What was it like at that time? Because again, this is early Twitter. This is like maybe 2 years. I think you guys launched 2006, but the world got it in 2007. Yeah. What was it like being at Twitter when MJ passed away, and just kind of seeing the traction? Because to me, that was like the coming out part. Like it was every day for like 2 weeks straight. What was that like then?
Yeah, it was special. And like, to be honest, I don't remember the day MJ passed and that all went crazy on Twitter, but I do remember that year or year and a half at Twitter where the world really caught on. It was a quirky product. It was quirky people running it. It was a little bird was cute. It was a very simple product, but there was an aura of importance. We knew at that point that what we were doing was like sending shockwaves through the world, and people were coming to Twitter to find out what's happening, what's going on. Yes. And so that combination of like quirky, fun, simple, coupled with like what we're doing here is going to really make a difference, on our planet and for the people and for these communities. And so it was a really special time to be there because, that was a big moment, obviously. But at this point, Twitter was starting to go global, and we had like, uprisings, the Arab Springs were happening. We had
I was going to bring up the Arab Spring thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was another.
That's when I was like, oh shit, because remember they had cut off communication.
Yep, and that was the only
there,
way.
and then they were communicating with each other via the Twitter, and like I was like, oh, this is okay. This is just not talking shit about basketball or.
That's right.
I was like,
that's when thing. That's right. That's when like traditional media, news outlets, and journalists started coming on and really validating this is a place to find out what's happening in real time. And, to the point earlier, still today, big news breaks. I go to Twitter right then to see like, what are people saying about it? And like, I'm at Meta now and I use Threads a lot, but like Twitter still has that kind of a stranglehold on like what's happening right now. What do you need to know?
Absolutely.
So it was a real special time to be at that company. I'll tell you, though, similar around then, the real special moment for me was the day that Snoop Dogg rolled into lunch at the Twitter offices.
Wow.
Brought about as many people as worked for the company with him in his crew. We had just got some new offices, and we had a little DJ deck, like, overlooking kind of the lunch tables and the cafeteria. And so Snoop brings his unreleased vinyl. It was going to come out. Wow. He starts putting on some music. His whole crew starts rolling big fatties and passing them around. I'm telling you, this office is there. I think there's maybe video on YouTube still, but this office in San Francisco, I mean, it was big office and it was hot box like you never seen. Security and the fire marshal shut the whole thing down. But, after that, Kanye rolled through, and the president of Russia and presidents of the United States. And like right after that, it was just this never ending line of people that wanted to come to the office to see like, where is this all happening? It's funny because the office was just like a bunch of nerds like me, like cranking on code and working on stuff. But the effect that product had through the world, man, it was meaningful. And I'll tell you just personally, and it's kind of hard to say, but I've been kind of craving that, like the dopamine of working for a place like that at a moment like that ever since, and maybe that was just a special moment in time, lightning in a bottle. I don't know if I'll ever recapture it, but man, that was a real special time to be there.
That's going to be hard to recapture at that time. The negative side could be said, though, that Twitter did a lot of positive and changed the way we communicate, but it also changed media forever in that, we all looked at our local news. We all watched TV. There was always a certain way to get the news, and it was, I thought, at least a lot more unbiased at that point. With Twitter on there, it became open that anybody could basically talk about anything in any opinion, and in some ways, facts didn't matter as much. So it is kind of a scary side too, because people are not going to remember how we used to get our news, and now it's changed forever.
100%. I mean, it's with the pros come the cons, and not everything is roses. And like I said, we back then, to my discredit, I wasn't thinking about ways in which this could be manipulated or used to manipulate people, or terrorist organizations still to this day using Twitter to organize to go kill people. I mean, it's that literal. And, we weren't thinking about that then. But also, I still believe, Twitter was a net positive. I think, like,
Absolutely.
and I really believe, like, and this is kind of, channeling Rick Rubin. He always says, like, ideas are in the ether around you. And, if you have one, you should run with it. If you don't run with it, someone else may. And I think we've seen a lot of examples of, like, even in, like, popular music over, the last century, like, sometimes, similar types of music will pop up in different parts of the world that had no connection to each other. And so it's like, I feel like if Twitter didn't happen, I think that idea would have likely happened. That said, I wish we go back and put some protections in and, do things a little bit differently, but maybe that would have squandered the deal. So
it might have never got to where it was.
Comes the bad. And I still to this day at Meta often talk about the lessons I learned at Twitter, just to make sure that, like, moving forward, we get all excited about technology, and, like, with AI happening right now, we're in a real moment right now with technology. Like, let's just take a breath, slow down a little bit, and make sure what we're doing, let's think through all the ways in which this can go horribly wrong, which is a really hard mindset to employ when you're really excited about a new thing. But I've learned that that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So what made you leave then? So Evan Williams decides to leave. Do you go because you had just become such a fan and loved working with him, or what happened? What made you leave Twitter?
Yeah, well, me and Ev became pretty close friends. Just kind of cut from a similar cloth and the things we were into. And he was, he was an idol in my mind, this, the little nerd from Texas, and he'd done all these big things. He kind of making it happen out in Silicon Valley. And so, of the Twitter founders, him, Jack, and Biz, me and Ev were definitely the closest. And he really, I owe a lot of my career to him. He really saw some potential in this little guy from Texas, and really put me on, and really helped me show what I could do. And so, it's a well documented story now. There's a book about it where, he was ousted for the company. He was the CEO. He actually, when it first started, they let Jack be the CEO. He was the engineer, but, like, very early, Ev was like, hold on, like, I can't have an engineer running this company. So Ev kind of took the reins from him, and then Jack orchestrated a little bit of a coup and took the reins back from Ev. Ev became a CEO later, and then Dick Costello. And, like, it was kind of this rotating cast. So by the time Ev left, I think the board was just kind of ready to turn the page fully, and Ev had got it to where it was, which at that point was a public company. And so Ev bounced, and I remember the day he left, I said, look, I know enough about you to know, like, you ain't gonna rest. And by this time, he was a billionaire. He didn't have to do anything. But I was proven right. He went to Tahoe for a couple months and tried to be like a snowboard bum, but that wasn't working. He had all these ideas. And, after Blogger and Odeo and Twitter, like, Ev is just fascinated and maybe even obsessed by this idea that, like, facilitating the exchange of ideas and stories in the world is one of the most important things that he can do. And that's kind of his mission to bring. And all these products kind of scratch a similar itch. So I knew he wasn't done. So I said, whatever you're doing next, like, I'm with you, homie. Let's go. And he wrote me back that day. He was like, I got an idea. I remember his emails. I got an idea because you want to rebuild the internet. And that's all he said. And so I was reporting to the VP of engineering or something. I told him that day, I said, this is my 2-week notice. I'm going to rock with Ev. And then he was like, what's Ev doing? I was like, I don't know. But, I doubted Ev the first time, as I said earlier, when he, asked me to move out there early at Twitter. I doubted him. And the second time I said, I'm with you on this ride.
You learned your lesson.
I learned my lesson. 100%.
Yeah. I respect that.
Yes, sir.
Respect that.
Yeah. So he left, and I joined him, and we restarted Obvious Corporation. Remember I told you Obvious Corporation, it was supposed to be like an umbrella company. Twitter was going to be one product of many. Well, now post Twitter, Ev's a billionaire. He's got all this cachet. He's bringing along people like me and some of the people that he knew to kind of start something new. And so we started Obvious Corporation V2. And we just started opportunistically bringing in the smartest, most creative people we knew and just dorking around with different ideas. And we built probably 10 or 11 different products. But the first one was what became Medium, the blogging platform.
Yeah.
And at the time, we kind of joked in that Ev had done Blogger, which was long form writing. Then he did Twitter, which was like short form writing. And it said, maybe there's something in the middle. And so we called it Medium, but also like the medium is the message.
Man, I knew that's where the name came from. That's cool.
It's just simpler than we thought.
That's dope.
Funny story about that. The other competing name was going to be matter.com, but oh God, I'm drawing a stupid blank here. Mark Cuban owned matter.com. And so Ev pinged Mark and said, hey, can I get this domain from you? I think he was going to sell, but it was going to be a ton. But we ended up falling in love with Medium anyway. And so we built a bunch of different products. Medium was kind of the first one. But then we thought, we can't just launch another blogging platform. Like, this has been done. So we spent about a year looking for different angles, different products, built a lot of different things. We kind of went back to that original idea and really felt like there was a need, partly because of what we launched with Twitter. To your point earlier, like how people consume news. Eb uses an analogy that really resonated with me and still does, which is like, anytime you're consuming anything, whether it's food or media, like you should have a healthy balance in your diet, And so like, I don't eat super healthy. I'm generally healthy, but I also have candy and ice cream, and I'll have a soda every once in a while. And like, same with my media consumption. Like, I'm trying to, be informed from, trustworthy, respectable, facts online and doing all these things, but also still use Twitter and Instagram. And so like Twitter was kind of like the candy of the media consumption, and like, I think, in coordination with, healthier things you ingest from the media, like it's probably fine. But when Twitter became that big, it was like, now all the media is like this, like candy, all the media is like candy now. Mm-hmm. So we felt like we could potentially offset that a little bit by launching a platform that really incentivized deeper thought, more intellectual writing, well-informed takes, and just longer takes. It's easy to crank out 140 characters. Not easy. I mean, some people it's like an art.
It could be an art
right now. But with Medium, we really targeted like, who are the thought leaders in industry? How can we potentially, change culture and change minds, around the world by letting people type and in a way that you didn't have to like start your own blog and market yourself and brand yourself. And you could write into this network that already had millions and millions of readers. And so even the business model, we said from the get-go, like we weren't going to be an advertising business model. I think the business model that big tech companies, including Twitter, employ today incentivize sensationalism and clickbaity headlines. That's how they get, their ad clicks and their money. Mm-hmm. So we said, we're not going to do ads on Twitter. So we, on Medium, sorry. So we played a couple different ideas, but right from the get-go, we said, we want this to be a place where people are going to come here and feel like they're getting the meat and potatoes of their digital diet, and so, they just celebrated, Medium just celebrated, I think their 12 or 13 year anniversary. So like, man, that's forever in tech and, in tech years. And still going, still growing. They do have a business model now. It's a profitable company as of this last quarter.
How do they make money? Because I'm not sure right now.
Yeah, so it's a membership. So for $5 a month, you get like unlimited membership. I think they're going to start experiment with some different tiers of membership, different things. But right from the get-go, we wanted to incentivize writers to write meaningful, impactful takes. And so still today, you can go to Medium today and write an article you think is going to be good. You can put it behind the paywall if you want. And all the people that read, you're going to get a little cut of that, not that much different than like, putting your music on Spotify, but, for a different industry. And man, really proud of what that became for sure.
Wow.
That was part 1 of our conversation with Stirman. Don't miss part 2. All right, folks, that's our show. Tune in to Unglossy, Decoding Brand and Culture on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And follow us on Instagram at UnglossyPod to join the conversation. Until next time, I'm Tom Frank.
I'm Jeffrey Sledge.
Smicky! That was good.